Mayor Pete bought two black children, served under Joe Biden, and still can't crack 0% with black voters in the latest Emerson College poll for the 2028 Democratic primary. Zero. As in, if the pollster had surveyed a Waffle House parking lot at 3 a.m., Pete still wouldn't have cracked the scoreboard. This is the same man who spent 4 years being marketed like he was the iPhone of politics. Sleek, efficient, probably updates his firmware while you sleep. And yet, when it came time to connect with actual human beings, specifically black Americans, not a single one said, yeah, that guy should be president. Imagine pulling that off. You served in the cabinet of a man who once told black voters, you ain't black, and somehow they still like him more than you. You're on every Sunday show like clockwork. You adopt two black children and parade them around like diversity NFTs. And still, you get beat out by undecided. Now, normally this is where cable news would say, well, Peter just has a messaging issue. No, Peter has a reality issue. Because outside of white wine moms and theater kids who rebranded as democracy activists, nobody thinks this guy is real. He talks like Siri got a PhD in urban planning. His entire persona feels like something the DNC printed in a lab after watching too many episodes of Queer Eye and deciding the Midwest needed its own Macron. You think I'm being unfair? Look at what's actually happened. Back in 2020, South Carolina's Democratic primary was Pete's first major test with black voters. He failed it completely, polling at 0% with black South Carolinians, even when he was still riding the high of early state media buzz. Around the same time, a white South Bend police officer shot and killed a black man named Eric Logan. The city erupted. Mayor Pete had to leave the campaign trail and face a crowd of angry local residents in a town hall that was already boiling over. During that meeting, a black woman asked him if he believed that Black Lives Matter. Peter gave the polished response, yes, of course they matter. But she didn't flinch. She shot back, you ain't gonna get my vote. Peter replied, I'm not asking for it. And that was the moment. Because on the surface, he said the right thing. But that wasn't the test. They didn't want the right answer. They wanted proof it wasn't just branding. And who could forget the Douglas Plan? Peter's grand overture to Black America, a policy proposal he promoted with a heartfelt graphic of a black woman and child, except they weren't American. The photo was from Kenya. As if that weren't bad enough, local leaders he listed as supporters hadn't even endorsed it. That's not outreach. That's National Geographic cosplay. You can't make this up. Pete's idea of winning over black voters was to quietly fire the black police chief in his city, then explain that part of systemic racism was caused by bridge height. That's not a joke. In an interview, Secretary Pete said some highways were built too low on purpose in the mid-20th century to prevent poor black residents from accessing certain areas, and that fixing transportation equity meant fixing the roads. You could almost hear the eye rolls from across the Mississippi. He's basically the AI-generated version of what a Yale student thinks a black friend might be. But let's go back to those kids, because here's the thing. If you adopt two black children in this political climate and you still can't pull one black vote in a national poll, that's not just a campaign failure. That's a cosmic rejection. You tried to buy social proof, and black voters still looked at you like one of those hyper-real Brazilian dolls, the kind that went viral for looking so creepily lifelike. People started calling for legislation. Too perfect, too managed, too unsettling to trust. Now I feel for Peter. He wants this so badly. You can see it in the way he says equity like it's a password to get into Burning Man. He reads James Baldwin. He retweets Ibram X, Kendi, and he name drops Frederick Douglass like he's his former intern. But the black voters he's aiming for, they've seen this act before. They remember Hillary Clinton bragging about carrying hot sauce in her purse like that was some kind of black passport. They watched Kamala Harris get marketed as the next Shirley Chisholm while her resume read like a DA. who never left the office and should have never gotten the job. Now they're watching the DNC fire up the same blender, and Pete's the spoon. Pete may be polling at 0% today, but give it time. Once the system picks him, you'll see that number shoot up, not because anyone changed their mind, but because obedience doesn't require enthusiasm.
We cannot tolerate any racism in the application.